Yo, you're listening to The World is My Burrito, and this is my Halloween special that was definitely posted on Halloween Day because we recorded it the day before Halloween, and I absolutely posted it Halloween Day 2024. So if you didn't see it way back then, that's your fault. I mean, right now, because right now is Halloween Day. Okay. So this is a very unique episode of The World is My Burrito, mostly because there is no plan. This is completely unplanned, unfiltered, unrequited, and unconstitutional, frankly.
This is going to be a fucking train wreck.
So I have with me on this episode, Mike, the Mike. Hey, wow, it's Mike.
Hello.
From the Neatcast. And they had me on for their Halloween episode, and I was like, I have not been able to imbibe much in Halloween this year. But you've been keeping it up with the movie thing, which I usually like to do.
Oh yeah. Dude, I love Halloween. I fucking love this holiday. And I've started a tradition like 5 years ago to watch a horror movie every single night during October. And I did that because horror is a huge blind spot for me. Like, I love movies, but I'm a big bleeding pussy when it comes to anything scary. I can't, like, for the longest time I just didn't watch horror. I'm just like I can't handle it. But then I watched Evil Dead when I was in my teens, and I'm like,
the OG.
I'm like, oh my god, this movie rules. and I started to get kind of interested in horror. And after my first month of watching a horror movie every night, I was like, I love this genre, but I kind of want to keep it to October because I want to have a whole batch of 31 beautiful horror films I've never seen before every year. And it's been great. It's been so much fun.
Yeah, so that already answers a couple of the first leading questions. So you've been doing the 31 days for 5 years now?
I don't know. I pulled that number out of my asshole.
Okay, so it could be 2.
It's been a while.
It
could be 15. I don't know. Time has lost all meaning.
So I'm right there with you on the horror blind spot thing. I tell a lot of people my story with horror is, I think it was 2008 or 2009. The Haunting in Connecticut came out, and I remember going to see it in theaters. And the big twist was transcribed so well at the very beginning of the movie that there was no point to be in the theater anymore. That it's like the first 10 or 15 minutes.
They're dead. They were dead all along.
Yeah. So yeah, it was like, man, I just don't really like horror. And it's not that I don't like horror. I just don't like most horror. I do think it has become one of my favorite genres, but God, it has gotta be right though.
You know what I think is special about horror is that I think it's just as entertaining when it's bad. Like, I've seen a couple movies this month that are dog shit, but I still enjoyed watching them. Like even a terrible horror movie I feel like is more interesting than a terrible drama or comedy.
Yeah, and what is it? Some of the two
a terrible comedy is you want to shoot yourself in the fucking head.
A terrible comedy does not lend itself to horror, but a terrible horror does lend itself to comedy.
Yes. But a terrible horror comedy is just misery. There was only one I watched this year, though. So, Werewolves Within. We talked about it on the Halloween special. It fucking sucks.
Yeah, you seem to have some feelings about that one.
Oh my god, yeah, that movie. We'll get to it eventually.
Eventually.
I have a whole. I don't necessarily want to go through every movie I saw, but I do want to talk about the standouts and if on both sides of the spectrum, the standouts that were horrible and the standouts that were really good, and a few things in between. But also, I want to let people know how I feel about horror, because I like if horror was like buffalo wings, I normally would order like mild, which I consider like, I don't know, Nightmare on Elm Street, like in like just a cozy, like fun, a little gory but still mostly fun horror movie with effects that you can laugh at how silly they look. But every now and then I like them a little spicy. Like I'll watch a spicier one.
Yeah.
I watched a couple ones that were a little spicy this week, but I don't like the extra spicy, like the ghost pepper horror movies, like Terrifier and Green Inferno and Cannibal Holocaust. It's like I have no interest in like prolonged human suffering, like 20 minutes of someone getting their skin peeled off. I just have no enjoyment there. But anyway,
you mentioned Cannibal Holocaust. I gotta check with Tim from Against All Oddities, because I recommended that like last year, I think, or the year before, because he asked in the Neatcast Discord. I don't know. He wanted something, or maybe it was on their own podcast. Either way, they wanted something particularly out there, and I was like, Cannibal Holocaust. It's like it's the easiest recommend, and even then, like, man. So for those listening, if you've never heard of Cannibal Holocaust, I'm pretty sure it's still on Shudder right now. And when they made it, the filmmakers had a warning in front of it. And then when it released, the production company had a warning on it. And now that it's on Shudder, Shudder has a warning on it. That everyone is like, just so you know, we don't condone any of this.
Yeah, it's one of those movies like Blair Witch Project where they're like, maybe it's true. I think the only thing that's true in that movie is, don't they like kill a chicken or something? Like they
kill a couple of animals, but even that I have read was
which
ethical.
They killed animals in Pink Flamingos. Like, yeah. That's not exclusive to gross out horror.
They killed a turtle. They killed some other stuff, but those were all actually, they weren't wasted. They were given to the tribes or whatever that were in that area. So kind of wild. But even that is like, you know, yeah.
Every now and then we'll have KFC.
Yeah. So, but that is vanilla compared to I've never watched it, but oh my god, is it the Sodom?
100 Days of Sodom or whatever.
Yeah. I swear there's
and like
one
a
more. Serbian
film.
There you go, Serbian film.
Yeah, which those movies are just like, it's like, who is entertained by this? I don't understand the entertainment value.
Are they made by Italians?
Yeah, to go back to the analogy, I consider those like hot pepper challenge movies.
Those are like ghost pepper.
The people who watch those are the same people that like only put like Da Bomb hot sauce on their fucking wings. It's like, you're not enjoying it. You're just gonna shit your fucking brains out later.
It's very accurate.
You're gonna start hallucinating. Like, why are you doing this to yourself?
So nothing on this list is going to be that level of insanity.
No, we get a little higher on the violence than I would normally go for. I was a little surprised once or twice, but for the most part, yeah, if I can handle these, anyone can handle these. So I feel good about recommending any of the ones I say are good or interesting.
All right, so let's get into it, because there's definitely, I'm interested in what your list holds, because there's definitely a couple of things that I have questions about as well.
Okay.
So I guess what was your spookiest in light of the season? What is the spookiest thing that you watched?
The spookiest movie I watched.
And
let me preface this by saying I was very, very high when I watched it. And I don't think that is the way you're supposed to watch this movie, because it is made to give you the highest level of anxiety. And when you're already at like peaking on the anxiety scale and this movie is fucking with you, it was just, oh my, it was too much. It was Hell House LLC. I saw it for the first time. This movie scared the shit out of me. Like to the point where I was like, I wasn't like hiding, like actually hiding under my covers, but I was like doing the thing where like, oh, what's going on with that wall of my bedroom instead of the TV? Oh, that's interesting. I think a bug's buzzing around over there. But
Now, you also got this from DT from Space Castle, right?
Yeah, he released a Halloween video and was like underrated horror movies, and I would agree.
5 or 6, yeah.
Yeah,
But I thought that he said that wasn't all that bad, and like he sounded, it sounded like a Saturday morning
diaper
cartoon,
baby. I'm a big diaper baby, so I was absolutely horrified by it. And like, I will say this though, there's about 10 seconds of the movie where the ghosts are CGI hooded demons, and they're so goofy that the movie instantly becomes not scary at all when they're on screen. And I mean, they're not, the CGI isn't like horrible, but it's still, when I see a CGI thing in a horror movie, I instantly stop being scared. Like, practical effects are scary. CGI isn't scary. Like, I know that exists in ones and zeros. It's not gonna interact with anyone.
Yeah.
But there is a clown ghost that is the worst thing I've ever seen. It is so fucking creepy. And also
is that the image that you posted on Twitter?
Yeah, and the really intense, like, found footage VHS look of it makes it so much more real. It's, oh god, it was awful. But I loved it. I loved it so much I might watch the fourth movie tonight, because I heard the second and third were awful, and the fourth is a prequel, so you don't really need them.
4 of Hell
There's 4
LLC?
It's a whole ass franchise.
Wow. Okay.
And I think they're now Shudder originals, kind of like how VHS was bought by Shudder, and now Shudder makes one every year. Have you ever watched the VHS movies?
I've seen the original, and this was 2010. I'm trying to think of the apartment I was in. So it was like 2010, 2011. I watched VHS, and I remember thoroughly enjoying it, but I haven't seen it since.
I think they're great. The new one, VHS Beyond, is more hit than miss, I would say. It's not my favorite. My favorite, I forgot what it was even called. I think it was the one that was set in the 80s, like VHS 84 or something. But it's the one that has the giant rat monster living in the sewer. That one is amazing.
This is in the same universe as Wonder Woman 84.
I mean, nothing is quite as terrifying as Kristen Wiig as that CGI supervillain.
Terrible cheetah.
Just horrible. But I made a whole little award, the Halloween movies awards for just the movies I've seen, and I have them all arranged into categories.
Okay, so what's next?
Okay. One thing I want to talk about, this movie is really under the radar, but I saw it because I found it because I love cryptids and I wanted a horror based around a cryptid. This one is pretty new. It's called Frogman. The monster in this movie is amazing. The creature effects are insane. I thought they were going to not do the literal frogman, like just a giant bipedal frog.
Yeah.
But they just went for it, and I'm so happy they did. It's so goofy. It's so dumb looking, and I fucking loved it. That monster is amazing, and the last 20 minutes is just a monster mash. It's just frogs all the time, giant frogs nonstop. But the only thing you have to get through is the first hour of the movie is just like Sam's Choice Cloverfield. It's they basically took the Cloverfield script and just swapped out kaiju for frog monster. I mean, it has
a 4-foot tall frog monster.
Yeah, because the main characters are the will they, won't they hot couple and the snarky cameraman, and it's just but again, the monster effects are amazing. They're so good. If you like cryptids, it's worth it.
Yeah, the image looks great. There's not actual video for this episode, but I can put this into the what is it? I guess if you're like listening by podcast, I can insert images into here because I do really want people to see this image of this like sad frog man. It's just he's got a he's sitting in a lawn chair. He's got a Bud Light there.
Yeah, I chose a behind the scenes footage because it had the most beautiful shot of this frogman with this giant tongue wrapped around someone. It's so good.
Okay. So what was next in the awards?
Well, we already went over scariest. That was Hell House.
Yeah.
Most horrifying violence. I would say, well, it's not quite a tie, but I have two answers for this. One is in a violent manner, which is this movie. If you haven't heard of it and you're a slasher fan, you need to watch this shit. And also know that you need an attention span because this movie purposely tests your attention span. It's not a boring movie. It's just a movie that requires that you embrace the ambiance. There's a whole lot of walking through the woods and crunching of like fall leaves, and it's like, oh, it's cozy until it's the most horrifying thing ever, which it just randomly is in like sporadic 5-minute bursts of just extreme violence. And like the kills are insane in this movie. Like there's a yoga girl who gets killed so much worse than anyone I've ever seen in any movie outside of, like, I'm assuming, like, the Terrifier franchise. Like, why? This poor girl was just doing yoga. Why is he so mad at her? But
he looks like he's a budget Big Daddy from BioShock.
Yeah, that's another thing. The killer in this is generic to the point of parody. And that is also on purpose. He's basically off-brand Jason because they get sued if they use Jason.
Yeah, no, it definitely. I saw some clips. Red Letter Media put it in their honorable mentions.
That's actually why I watched it.
Oh yeah, that's funny.
They said why it just the concept of it, a slasher movie that never leaves the killer's point of view, is so cool. And
well, I think I'd seen their video before I got into the Jason franchise. Like maybe I'd watched 2 and or 3 by that point, but I watched their video around the same time as I started the Jason franchise. And so I'm sitting through the entire franchise like, yeah, what is he doing all this time?
Yeah. And also, the thing about this movie is it makes you realize how toothless and generic most slasher movies are. It almost will ruin slasher movies for you. Because, like, it's so... Not only are the kills, like, way more inventive than you normally get in a slasher film, but it's like a genuine art film. It's on a higher level than, like, anything else coming out in the genre. It's insane. And also there's a scene with a very slow-moving blade that is fucking horrible. It goes on for, like, 10 minutes. And it just keeps fucking going.
It's like a oh my god, that would be Spy Who Shagged Me, like James Bond kind of slow moving blade.
Really? Imagine if James Bond was very slowly murdered by that slow moving laser. That's that's what this movie is throwing at you.
I'm pretty sure Family Guy has done a skit like this before.
And then, also, a movie that I didn't expect this level of violence from, really, was Dagon, which maybe I should have, because it's from the guy who made The Reanimator, which was an insanely violent movie, but it's like Evil Dead violence, it's like Looney Tunes violence, which is what I expected. But this movie is genuinely horrifically violent at times. There's a scene where, with practical effects, this guy gets his skin peeled off his face that is just awful. It's just horrendous.
That sounds terrible.
But it was made in 2000, and there's some very little, but still some CGI that is like, it's like Mortal Kombat Armageddon level CGI. It is horrible.
I feel like in 2001, it's kind of like required that they had some type of absolutely horrific
Yeah, and
The
it's even
horrific in the bad sense of CGI.
and it's even worse because that they're showing the cosmic horror, and A, don't show the cosmic horror, and B,
Yeah.
if you show the cosmic horror, if you make it look like something out of Beast Wars, you're kind of shooting your own movie in the knees.
Oh man. Yeah, that I do need to check out because it's been a couple of years, but I've read Dagon. For the most part, I enjoy Lovecraft's literature.
Yeah. Also,
Uh,
I have to say, if you've read Dagon, don't necessarily go into it expecting Dagon,
yeah.
because it is actually Shadow over Innsmouth. It is just Shadow over
Oh,
Innsmouth.
okay.
And I loved it for that. Like I had no idea there was a big screen version of Shadow over Innsmouth, but it was done so well. But yeah, keep in mind though, there is 5 minutes of horrendous violence.
Just violence, and then the greater affront is the CGI. Right?
But also, I was a bit like confused because it's marketed as like everything you read about it, like it's a Spanish film, and almost everyone speaks English in it. It's almost entirely in English. There are entire scenes that are in Spanish, but you can tell by context what's happening. Like, so you don't need subtitles.
Okay.
I didn't have subtitles on, and it didn't matter. It really didn't matter at all. It's so obvious. If like someone is screaming in Spanish and someone with a saw is walking towards them, you're assuming they're saying,
Yes.
"Don't kill me with a saw." But anyway, my new favorite, another category. This would be Shadow of the Vampire. Have you ever heard of Shadow of the Vampire?
So a friend of mine, well, it's Bob from the Straight Chilling podcast. They explicitly cover horror. He mentioned it a couple of times on the podcast, saying that he liked it and in person. And then I think in 2020, I'm pretty sure I was still in Jacksonville at the time. He lent me the DVD. Well, I think it was him, or I'd looked it up because he'd mentioned it again, and I saw that Eddie Izzard was in it. And I was like, you
Yes!
have constantly mentioned all of these people. And I was like, if you had just said Eddie Izzard, I would have hopped on this immediately.
And amazing casting. This movie has amazing fucking casting because he looks exactly like one of those freaks who would be in a silent film.
Yes.
You know, they always have like an insane amount of makeup on, and they're always mugging for the camera. Eddie Izzard is perfect for that. And also it has John Malkovich just killing it. And the best part is that it has Willem Dafoe playing Nosferatu, except in the movie story, they're filming the silent film Nosferatu, but they hire a real vampire played by Willem Dafoe, who they promise the lead actress to if he stars in the movie.
It's so good. And he looks, it is kind of funny because it looks like he's just reprising his role as Green Goblin.
It's so
but
amazing.
They just didn't put green on it this time.
Like, the best parts of the movie aren't even the horror scenes. The best part was like when there's one scene where they're all at a campfire and Nosferatu just comes out and just tries to bro out with the crew, but he's just a weird little freak that they're all off put by. It's so good.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a recommend. But that is another one that I think it's niche. I don't think everyone's gonna like it. Because honestly, it's like a documentary. It's a a movie about the making of a movie, but it's actually the movie happening.
Yeah. Watch Ed Wood. If you like Ed Wood, then watch Shadow of the Vampire. Because they're the same type of movie. They're very similar. Just a magical realism, like behind the scenes film.
Yeah, no, it is very good though. The acting's great. No. Eddie Izzard and Willem Dafoe. God, yeah, no. I was really surprised by the cast.
John Malkovich playing like the genius auteur filmmaker who's like just insanely lost in his art. He's so good in that movie. And then I have my biggest surprise, which again, it's a tie. I'll say the one that everyone knows first. Child's Play. I had no idea the original Child's Play, I'm talking about the one from the 80s,
Yeah.
was actually a good movie. I thought it was just a dumb slasher. And it is dumb, but it's elevated so much by the fact that everyone in this movie is acting their fucking ass off. And I don't know why. Like, they put everything into this Killer Doll movie. Brad Dourif is giving like an Oscar-worthy performance as a fucking doll with holding a knife. There's a scene where he kills someone with a voodoo doll, and he's legitimately doing like Oscar-worthy acting in this C-movie level like scene. He's just killing it.
So I haven't that might be, no, it's either that or like Texas Chainsaw might be my next franchise. I've been doing franchises for the last few years. So like Jason this year, Freddy last year, Halloween the year before, and then Hellraiser the year before. So, but Child's Play is another big blind spot. I've watched review videos on it. In Praise of Shadows, I think, is the guy that I watched on YouTube. But yeah, I haven't seen the original since I was maybe like 7 or 8, and that's it. I have just haven't cared. Like,
I'm here to tell you, surprisingly, it holds up.
It's pretty good.
It amazed me. It was a good movie. Like, it really was. Like half hour into it, I was like, wait, this is good. And it was like so shocking to me. Like, I had to reprogram my brain because I was in silly, let's laugh at this dumb movie mode.
Like, no, let me trade these snacks out for the good snacks, for the good movie snacks.
Yeah, oh shit, I have to lock in now. I didn't know this was a lock-in type movie.
Oh man, that's good to hear. So yeah, biggest surprise solely because it wasn't actually shit. It was a decent watch.
It's like legitimately good.
Nice.
And I should have figured it because, like, I think it's a producer. The same producer has been with this series all the way up to the TV show.
Let's see.
And it's like his baby. So obviously someone believes in it.
Oh man, this came out the year I was born. Hey, it's Tom Holland. Spider-Man is
he's a director. I don't think I don't think he's the one who's like the mastermind behind the series though.
Yeah. So director, I don't even know. Come on. Producer's not up there because I mean they don't matter. It's so weird.
While you're looking it up, the other big surprise was a movie I've never even heard of. Have you ever heard of a movie called Sting?
I have not.
It's about this is another movie that I was expecting to be garbage. And then I was like, wait, it's good. Like, it was so shocking how good it was. It's about a little meteorite crashes into an apartment building, and an alien spider that's the size of a normal spider comes out of it. And this little girl keeps it as a pet, and it just keeps growing, and eventually grows huge and starts eating people. And it has a very simple premise, but it is done so well. It's insanely good. It has great writing, like great acting. The characters, there's so much good like character work. Like,
man,
I didn't expect
this year.
I didn't expect good character work in a movie about a fucking giant alien spider. But it's like legitimately you love the characters in it. And also, one person has an extremely disgusting death that anyone who hates spiders is going to throw up. So a warning. If you have arachnophobia, you will throw up all over yourself.
Let's see. Okay, so that one's on Hulu. So Child's Play, David Kirshner.
I think that's him.
Yeah, that's the guy, because it even shows him as being, executive producer for the recent one. But he also did a Hocus Pocus.
He's a genius.
Both?
He's a visionary.
Yeah, he's the producer for both Hocus Pocus.
This guy got Brad Dourif.
Oh my god. Yo, he's the executive producer.
Bette Midler.
He's on the Pirates of Darkwater.
Really?
Yeah, he's the executive
my
producer.
God.
I have met hold on, what's the other guy? is it Dawn? I have met one of the creators of Pirates of Dark Water, um, actually this year at Ocala Comic Con. But no, that's really cool. He's worked on a lot of pivotal stuff.
He's a genius. I'm a new fan.
Yeah, that'd
Uh,
be So Sting though. Sting is for some reason I was thinking this was like within the last couple of years, but this is new.
yeah, this is brand new.
Brand spanking
This
new.
is straight out the oven. I think it's free on Shudder. If you have Shudder, Shudder is worth it. Shudder's a
I
pretty dope streaming service.
I keep saying that I need to get it, and then I don't at least like pay for 1 month just to watch one Halloween movie a month.
Their originals are way better than you would think they would be.
Well, they also have Joe Bob Briggs, the drive-in, and I need to watch all of that because I've watched a couple of those, and it is so. That's how I saw Cannibal Holocaust was through Joe Bob.
What? Who is Joe Bob? I've missed Joe
Oh,
Bob Briggs.
dude, Joe Bob. He's been doing this drive-in thing since the 70s.
Oh my god.
80. He's been doing it for a long time. He's been in like journalism for a long time, but this dude has like I've seen him live as well. I went to Jack's, I think it was 2 years ago, to see him do like a cerebral film night. And it was two brain oriented movies, Brain Dead and the other one will come to me. But
Brain Dead, I
like
still have to see that Peter Jackson zombie movie. Basically, Peter Jackson's Evil Dead.
the yeah, that is Brain Dead, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dead Alive in America.
Yeah. Okay. Wait. No, not that one. So either way, Joe Bob Briggs has been doing journalism for so long, and he has like an encyclopedic knowledge of like everything that he's one of those people that like if he's seen something or read something, he just remembers it for the rest of his life. Because when he was up on stage, he's talking about like the history of cerebral horror, the brain as horror. And like doesn't even really have that much in the way of notes up there, because he is mostly glancing, like looking at the crowd for everything. He just has his like talking points in order, but that's it. He's not like reading cards or anything. And remembers so much stuff. It's like, yeah, this one book that started from like the 1930s or whatever, and can remember like all of the pivotal points about it.
So is he like a male
he's
Elvira? Like
yes, yeah.
Okay.
That would be the short way. He's very he's comedic, but he's a serious person that has like great dry delivery on stuff. But it's so funny because if you watch the drive-in, which I highly recommend to anyone, Joe Bob's drive-in, and he during their commercial breaks is him talking about it, and it's a wild card because you never know if he's going to talk about the movie or like that one time that he was hanging out with somebody in Hollywood. So he may just completely ignore whatever it is. He gives out like scoring, like what the movie features, like, oh yeah, this movie has 4 breasts, 1 nunchuck kill, and like runs down.
That's what I need to watch a movie. You better have at least 4 breasts and 1 nunchuck kill.
Yeah, so absolutely recommend that. It's MST3K without the interruptions, but it is a lot smarter. So I mean, it probably more akin to Elvira, and you can learn a lot of really interesting stuff. Every now and then he gets some of the actors or directors to come on, for the film that he's covering, and that, oh man, that is how I learned of Night of the Demons as well last year. Which is
that's been on my list for a while. Haven't seen it yet.
It is so goddamn charming.
I might have to watch that in the next couple nights. I have a couple more nights left. Maybe that'll be my Halloween night movie.
It's fun. It's really good. It's not shot on a very big set, and you can tell. But they do such a great job with what little space that they have. And that it was fascinating listening to Joe Bob talk about like all the behind the scenes stuff. And he had the two females from it, the main two females, um, and like chatting with them about behind the scenes stuff. Uh, yeah, no, it is a very charming movie. I was like, I've heard of it a lot, but who cares? And then I'm watching it, it's like, oh my god, I actually genuinely like this. It's an easy watch, and it is one of those that it's on that level, I guess, kind of Evil Dead, where there's that cheesiness but that charm, where it's like, no, the horror is still there. We're not really detracting from the horror. We're just doing what we can with what we have, and it just kind of comes out a little
I love
cheesy.
movies like that, man.
Yeah,
and
it's
also
that perfect balance.
Also, I'm a big defender. I know some people hate it just because they hate Joss Whedon, but I love Cabin in the Woods. Like, that movie is basically like a twist on the whole, like, we have no money,
Yeah,
a $0 budget, like Cabin in the Woods movie. Except they had an insane budget, and they put it all on screen in the last half hour. But most of it is just, it's an homage to that type of movie, which I love.
Yeah, Cabin in the Woods is one of my all-time favorites. And the first time I ever saw it was like 2 years ago.
Oh yeah, I love discovering a new favorite.
Yeah, it's from 2011, and the first time I ever saw it is within the 2020s for sure.
But enough about favorites. Let's talk about dog shit. Biggest disappointment.
Dog shit. Big old dookies.
Werewolves Within. This was the biggest disappointment of the entire month.
Still on your top.
Every time I scrolled past the movie, I'm like, that looks charming. I thought that for like years and never watched it. Finally, I was like, fuck it. Werewolves Within. I can't think of anything better. I was the opposite of my Child's Play and Sting experience. I went into it expecting a good movie, and halfway through I was like, oh no.
What have I done?
It's like, I can't believe this movie was so highly rated. Like I said on our Halloween special, this movie has like an 80% or more on Rotten Tomatoes, and the audience score is just as high. And what am I missing? Because this movie, the script is like a Hallmark movie of the week script. It's the laziest, like, generic Hollywood writer wrote it at a Starbucks, and every other line was like, I'm a genius.
He's just high-fiving himself in the corner.
He probably wrote 5 other scripts that day, and the movie is just dog shit, and it tries to convince you it's smart by, in the last 5 minutes, going, you thought that this movie was generic on purpose? No, you thought this movie was generic because it's stupid? No, we're subverting your expectations. We're generic because we want to surprise you at the end that we know how generic this movie is. I still watched an hour and 45-minute long generic piece of shit, okay?
Like 145 too. That's, yeah.
You just, oh, God.
Like 130 is definitely that somehow, for most horror films, like 130 really should be the cap, because there was, I can't think of which Jason movie is like an hour 40, and it felt like a 2.5 hour long movie. Like, that extra 10 minutes really just fucked everything up.
And you know what's really pissed me off about the movie? I expected an explosion of violence at the end, because it's a horror. So
yeah.
If the whole movie is talking and supposedly rising tension, even though the whole thing feels like an SNL skit, so there is no rising tension, when the werewolf shows up, you expect some kind of violence, some kind of payoff. A, the werewolf looks like shit. It looks like a mask they bought at, like, Spirit Halloween. And B, it doesn't do anything. It does fucking nothing. The werewolf appears and gets shot and dies. That's what it does. And I figured that there was some kind of, like, payoff or explosion of violence, like I said, because the cover of the movie is the main character holding an axe. And I'm like, oh, okay, so there's like at the end it becomes like
shit's going down
or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know why the axe is on the fucking poster? Because after 15 minutes, he goes on an axe throwing date with the AT&T girl. And that's it. That's the only time X is coming to the fucking story.
So that's like false advertising.
Yeah. There is those X, and maybe even then, giving it the benefit of a doubt, I'm like, maybe this is a Chekhov's gun situation where there's this axe throwing scene, because at the end they're gonna have to throw axes at the werewolf. Yeah. That would have been maybe a good script. But this happened for no fucking reason. None.
Oh my goodness.
This movie...
It's terrible.
Sucks so much dick. But I almost want people to watch it just to... Tell me I'm not crazy. Tell me this movie sucks as much ass as I thought it did. I saw this movie and went to sleep angry. And then I woke up and the first thing I did was roll over and go, this fucking movie better have a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. And it didn't. It was like critically raved about. Bad. Like, how? It's so fucking bad. This movie sucks a big fucking cock. This movie sucks.
Oh, man.
Anyway.
Yeah, and because let's see. God, where do they keep it? 6 out of 10 on IMDb, which sounds very generous. From what
I don't think
generous. I would give most SNL skits a 6 out of 10.
No, this is like 45. Lifetime or Hallmark Channel movie of the week level, and that's as much credit as I can give it, as this workman-like script that, like, if you leave on in the background for like your mom, well, she might like enjoy it. She might be like, "That was nice." She's like ironing. That was a cute movie.
You could leave it on at Thanksgiving in the background.
I'll just do worse. I'll do worst movie. That was the last thing I wrote, but I'm retreading what I already said on our Neatcast Halloween special. Worst movie I saw all month, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. And I know that you liked it. I'm sorry. I hated this movie. The only shining light in this movie is that it has some practical effects that look nice. There's brief moments of practical effects. I'm like, wow, that's way better than this movie deserves. Because the storyline is just nonsense. It's just garbled, over convoluted nonsense. And the main character seems to have been written to appeal to like Harvey Weinstein, and that's it. Like, he's just a gross womanizing scumbag. And you're stuck with this piece of shit for the entire movie. You have to walk around with this asshole and no likable characters, following a plot that makes no sense.
That has robots.
It has robots, and it has a guy. It's Season of the Witch. The witch isn't even a woman. It's a businessman. It's like, you're a warlock, then, you asshole.
Get your terminology right.
It should have been called like Company of the Warlock.
Warlock LLC.
But the scene where the kid turns into bugs is pretty cool.
I like that's one of the things that I liked is honestly, it's like the only Halloween movie that I feel like is genuinely scary, because conceptually, maybe not an execution, but like in the real world, if you could just, they're going for the kids, not even the adults. They're trying to, fuck with the children. And it's like that, I think, is a very terrifying premise, because in all the other Michael Myers movies, he's just badly trying to kill one person.
I also might extra hate this movie because I'm a big John Carpenter fan. I'm a new John Carpenter fan. A couple years ago, I watched all his movies, and I'm like, this guy fucking rules. And Halloween was the first one I saw, and I'm like, this guy just has like an eye. He knows how to make a movie captivating. And then you watch Halloween 3, and you're like, I could not get into a single second of that movie. It was, I don't know.
And I think it's also, it doesn't help because the original plan, which I think most people know by now, was Halloween is called Halloween because it's supposed to be like an anthology. So every time they release a movie, it's supposed to be a new and unique story that does not feature Michael Myers. Michael Myers is one story.
You see, here's where they fucked up. Because if you're going to make it an anthology, which I think is a smart idea, then stick with the blueprint. Make it a simple urban legend every time you do a new movie. Like the next one, Halloween 3 should have been like about like the Hookman or something. Or
Yeah.
just find an urban legend and elevate it. Just simple. Something simple. Or the Boogeyman, a monster in a closet. Just take a simple premise and just elevate the shit out of it. That's what John Carpenter did. But
Yeah.
anyway, I digress. My final category.
Final category.
Before then, you can just I'll open it up to Q&A. You have my whole list. You can look through it and ask me about any other one I talked about. Actually, I should open my list and look through for ones I might want to say something about. But anyway, most confusing. People Under the Stairs by Wes Craven.
Okay. Let's see which one.
And I'm gonna say that it's not confusing because the story was confusing. The story is a pretty standard evil neighbors, like people in the walls kind of movie. But this movie is the most tonally confused movie I may have ever seen. Like it's like if Home Alone had cannibals in it.
Weird.
Like
Okay.
it's so silly, and then also like intensely violent and like horrifying imagery, and then like the main character is a 10-year-old kid who punches a killer in the nuts, and he's like mugs for the camera like, "Ooh, me nuts," and like, it's like and then they go to like cannibals eating humans in the basement. It's like, what is this movie? Who is it for? It's so confusing.
People who like Resident Evil: The Village.
It's just so odd.
That sounds like what you're describing, but for kids.
My theory for this movie is that it did come out almost the exact same time as Home Alone. My theory is Wes Craven made a movie, and the studio executives were like, "Can you make it more like Home Alone?" So he went back and inserted his own Kevin McAllister into the movie.
That would not be a rare occurrence.
Because the slapstick scenes stick out like a sore thumb. It's like they're from a different movie.
Yeah, they don't fit, kind of what's going on. So one of the things, like now that I'm on one of the third, most influential slashers, and I guess technically the final, because I feel like the big three really come down to Michael Myers, Freddy, and then Jason. And I'm seeing so much like cross influence. I have spent so much time on IMDb checking out when other things happened around it. Because I'll be like, wow, this feels like one of the other movies. When did they do this? Because Halloween. Have you seen Halloween 4?
I've seen only the original and then the recently rebooted trilogy. That's
the
David
David
Season
Gordon
of the
Green.
Witch. Yeah.
Okay. So I remember liking 4 because 4 has the most wasted potential, because there's so much that it's like, okay, we can get something good out of this leading into 5, but then what they do with 4, they just like throw everything out when they hit 5. So I was like, cool, I think I know where this is going to go. I know it's not going to go there because I know the franchise, but I love what 4 was setting up, and they have a psychic girl, and then Jason Part 7 introduces a psychic telekinetic girl.
Do you think they were doing a crossover, or they were going?
Well, they
a
definitely do in some of these, because there's literally the main chick in Jason Part 7 is the main chick, or one of the main chicks in Freddy. I think it's like Part 4. Then this same year, they released in the exact same year, so they had the same like female actress, same actress in both of them.
The Friday the 13th movies are so funny because they're so shameless in how much they crib from other horror movies. They really are just cheating off of everyone else's paper.
Yeah, and I've been enjoying it for that, because to me it is the one, man, as kind of goofy as Nightmare on Elm Street is. I feel like there's something about Nightmare on Elm Street that they want you to take seriously, and it's like, this is not serious. And then
I
Michael
will say,
Myers.
sorry to interrupt, but I saw
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street for the first time also,
Yeah.
and I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was
I
charming as hell.
would be interested in your take on 2, because 2 is my favorite in the
Two is the
series.
funniest because okay, I'm also getting this from Red Letter Media, who we've already mentioned, but
Yeah.
they did a retrospective and they brought up that 2 was very much supposed to be a horror movie that was a allegory for a younger man realizing they're gay, and the director had no idea. He had
The
no
director
idea.
claims to have no idea that it's it's very gay coded. And
and
that
and it's so funny because you hear the screenwriter like talking about what his intentions, and then they go to the director. He's like, I didn't know it was a gay movie.
yeah.
Just so funny.
Like I don't think that, I don't know if they mention it or not, but it's one of those that it's like I know people wonder, like, he had to have known that it was gay coded, but just said that he didn't know because he wanted it to get a pass to get it out into the world.
Uh-huh.
But I like the, I mean, he's, if he didn't know, I mean, he's still doing the kayfabe, man. He's still like, I had no idea. I was just directing here. Come on. No, it's, I really like 2. 1 was great. Like, the effects are great. Friday the 13th has some of the best special effects, practical effects. The
Tom
story
Savini,
gets
man.
so dumb though. Yeah.
Well,
Savini really does a good job.
although I think Savini was only there for 1 and 4, I think.
There,
Which are the ones that
like
really go the hardest.
because is 4 might be the one with the worm. Because if it is, then that's like my other favorite one as far as effects go. Because there's a giant
4
Freddy
is the one
worm.
with Crispin Glover being a weird little freak, which I know is unusual for Crispin Glover.
Yeah. Well, wait, are we talking Jason or Freddy? Was he in both
Jason.
as well?
I'm talking Jason. I don't know if he
Oh,
was ever
I
in
was,
Freddy.
yeah, because I was saying Freddy, the
Oh, you were
special
talking
effects
about
of Freddy.
Freddy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Nightmare
Sometimes
on Elm Street.
I just hear a slasher
And
like
yeah.
killer's name, and I
It's the
I
same thing.
sub it in for someone
They're all the
else.
same. No, Nightmare has those great practical effects. That's really the one thing that it has going for it. The story is, I don't know. I don't think the story overall is good. Every like third Halloween movie is a reset to the franchise because they keep fucking it up. And then like you were saying, the Friday the 13th is just unabashedly like, it retcons its own stuff movie by movie. Like, the beginning of each next movie will retcon like a little bit of the movie before it, or sometimes just completely ignore that certain things ever happened, and they will
Yeah.
be directly connected. And it'll be like, yeah, no, they never changed the name of Crystal Lake. And like, I think it's like in 5 or 6, one of them, they totally changed the name of Crystal Lake. And then in the next movie, everything is branded as Crystal Lake. They're
The
like,
rebrand failed.
yeah, well, they're like, yeah, you know, people, we didn't want them associating, you know, all the moitas with our town, so we changed
Yeah, we
the
didn't
name
want to
of
accidentally
everything.
we didn't want to accidentally attract tourists by
Yeah.
being interesting.
And then part 9 is like, so we're trying to attract tourists to make it interesting.
Welcome to Kill Lake.
Oh man,
Murder
you're
Mountain.
going to Camp Blood, ain't you? So if that's was that pretty much the list?
That's pretty much my standouts. I will say just a quick couple other things. I saw stop motion, which is kind of it's, I expected it to be another like killer doll movie, but it's really much more like Black Swan, but about
Yeah.
someone who just is obsessed with stop motion and like imposter syndrome, and it's really good. But it's not that scary, really, because it's just about like going insane, losing yourself in art, and it has creepy visuals. But if you want like a all out horror movie, you might be disappointed. But I liked it. And Mad God, which is that movie that I forgot is Phil Tippett was working on, I guess, for like 30 years. He was making this stop motion movie in his garage, and it's completely insane. It makes no logical sense. It's about an assassin who drops from a cage in the sky into this world that God has abandoned and goes down through the layers of hell to plant a bomb. That's
Oh my
basically what
god.
it's about. And I wish I liked it more because the stop motion is beautiful, but it really loses whatever the hell the thread is at a certain point. At like 70% through, it becomes so surreal that it's just like, I'm getting nothing from this anymore.
Yeah, the single image that you have seems very, I mean, it looks really cool, but yeah,
Yeah, the
I
stop
guess.
motion stuff is dope.
So among everything else that you have in here, you do have plenty of new things. I think the two that stand out the most that you haven't mentioned yet, Ginger Snaps, which I've still never seen, but heard a lot of good about over the years. I feel
Yeah,
bad for not watching it.
this just barely missed like my new favorite of the whole. Like this was Ginger Snaps is a really smart movie. I mean, I would say it's been ripped off a whole lot because like the whole idea of like tying in werewolf mythology into like girls getting their first period and dealing with that during dealing with the whole like yeah, it's a really smart idea, and I've seen it multiple times, and I think a lot of it came from this. This movie is from like 2000. I mean, there are some things that predate it. There was a Swamp Thing issue by Alan Moore that was about the same thing, kind of. Oh,
Okay.
that was more like tied into like feminism and like the birth of feminism and like a woman getting pissed off by society and she turns into a werewolf and kills men. It's kind of the same sort of idea. But
Yeah.
but yeah, Ginger Snaps was really good. I also Cycle of the Werewolf was a Stephen King book that I'm certain he ripped off Ginger Snaps. I'm positive. Even if he didn't know, he probably watched it while he was on cocaine and then wrote Season of the Werewolf or Cycle of the Werewolf.
Cycle of the Werewolf. Let's see. Well, that was 85 and Ginger Snaps was 2000. So
Also, despite coming out in 2000, no shitty 2000 CGI. It's just
really,
all
how did
beautiful
they do
practical
that?
effects. So good. Maxine, I saw. This movie got like bad reviews, and I don't think it's as good as X or Pearl, but it's like it's pretty good. Like it just kind of like
It's just
it's
okay.
yeah. It's like it's a perfectly fine, smart horror movie.
So the other thing, because I like what I like, Ju-on.
Oh yeah, I saw the original The Grudge, which is in Japanese it's Ju-on, that came out in 2002. This movie still fucks. This movie is scary as hell. Just the imagery in it. Like, look at the screenshot I used of that ghost. God, she's
Yeah,
fucking terrifying.
which is very similar to like scenes from The Grudge. There are actually I would need to check. I can't remember if they used the same actress or not because I think The Grudge came out very shortly after this.
Yeah, I think it's the
Um
same year.
2004.
But man, like,
Yeah.
you watch Ju-on and you're like, you realize how much was influenced by this movie because now you see girls with long hair crawling downstairs like everywhere in horror.
Yeah.
Like there's something
Um
about that image that you're just like, ow! It's just
so
so
it
disgusting.
is the same actress
It
from
is
Ju-on
really.
in The Grudge. Yeah, she plays the
Damn.
same character. Yeah. I was like, I know that face. So I haven't this is something that I need to rewatch because I haven't seen Ju-on since, oh my god, probably like high school days. Like back when I was in Japanese class, and I remember like Ju-on is subjectively scarier, but because the Japanese are, they weren't as focused on like lighting or anything, or at least this particular director, it's like you can always see everything. So it's there's like nothing is ever really hidden in shadow. They have great, like, so much, good cinematography, good stuff, but like not good lighting, not good foley. um like the thematic part of it kind of drops. And that's why I think The Grudge is objectively better, even if it's not scarier. It's just the lighting and Foley alone make The Grudge scarier than Ju-On.
Yeah, the Grudge is like, it takes Ju-On and makes it like a slick packaged product.
Yeah.
And
But
I also saw The Omen for the first time, which it's no surprise, it's still good. Like, there's not much else to say.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. And
Eh,
you did mention that the first Omen was better, you thought?
Yeah, the new one that came out, First Omen.
Yeah.
At least it's more like memorable because it's so shocking. Like, there's a scene where a demon hand comes out of a vagina, and you see it in explicit detail, and it's like,
Nice.
I didn't expect a reboot of a horror classic to go this fucking hard. Like, it goes so hard. This movie has the sauce. The First Omen, that movie is sauced up. Oddity is basically a Tales from the Crypt episode that's like extremely slickly presented. But it's like,
Yeah,
the story it's just an EC horror comic, but it's just done really well.
yeah, that's a weird screenshot. It's one of those that you can't get anything from it. So I was wondering about that.
Yeah, I will say my major problem with it is the monster that you're going to see in all the promotional images basically does nothing. It's like a dead plot thread. it's so odd.
It's kind of like the axes from Werewolf Within.
I mean, it's not quite that bad. They don't go on a mud person making date, but I was just excited because I'm like, oh, like a golem. That's cool. I've never seen a movie where a golem from like Jewish mythology is the monster. But it was just like, it's like, sorry, spoilers. Fast forward 30 seconds if you don't want to hear it. It comes to life, tries to strangle a guy, and then he gets away, and then they burn it. That's after being set up for like 45 minutes.
Oh my god. Okay.
But whatever. The movie's still cool. It has zombies, it has ghosts, it has fucking everything. It's a monster mash. It's amazing.
It's a monster mash.
It's so Halloweeny. And I'll add one more category. Most bland. Cuckoo, released this year. I have nothing to say about this movie. I forgot it almost as soon as I was done watching it.
Yeah, that is terrible.
I'm sorry, it just was not good. I was rooting for Hunter Schafer, but this movie is just dull, man. And the only interesting part is, what's his name? Something Stevens. British
Stevens.
Dan Stevens. He's playing a mad scientist, and he's the only person in the whole fucking movie having any fun at all. It's just, I don't know. I had high hopes. I was like, I'm gonna watch a highbrow movie tonight, and it's just boring as shit.
Yeah, hate it when that happens.
And I think this is the only one I haven't really talked about that is Slither, which is a James Gunn horror about alien slugs.
Slither's a classic. That one I have seen. I actually watched it earlier this year just because I wanted to.
It's really good. If I hadn't watched Shadow of the Vampire, it would be my new favorite. It's really, really good. And it reminds me a lot of The Fly with Jeff Goldblum. It's the same type of movie. If you saw The Fly and you need more like gross, disgusting body horror,
and it's got like Nathan Fillion. It's wild to think of because this is James Gunn, and how many of these people are in Marvel now.
Yeah,
because Michael Rooker, big
and
name.
they're all in Marvel because of James Gunn. James Gunn just carried them with him on his back. He has them all in a backpack guys. He carries around, like Samwise Gamgee. But
it's a classic. That was 2006, and that's one where like they do have enough CGI, but man, this movie's it's so easy to forgive.
Yeah, and the CGI is pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad. There are still plenty of good practical effects, like the pregnant lady.
Yeah. Yeah, there's tons of gross practical effects. He's reaching back to his trauma days. Like
Yeah.
I said in my little mini review, like James Gunn wants to go back to his trauma days so bad, but he's doomed to be a successful millionaire.
Yeah, it sucks to be him. Maybe we'll
I
get
know, right?
some trauma stuff. And is he not doing the new Superman?
No, he
No,
is.
he's still okay. Upcoming. That's right. I was like, why is there nothing on there?
Oh, wait. Before we wrap up, I do have one more thing to talk about.
Okay.
So I watched the only of the classic Universal monster movies I haven't seen is The Wolfman.
Yeah.
I dug it because these movies the vibes are fucking immaculate in these movies. They're so good, but the romance subplot that they always shoehorn into these movies, because back in the 1940s you needed a romance subplot. It was like studio mandated. This is the weirdest romance subplot. So the main character has a telescope and he looks into this woman's apartment and spies on her, and then he goes to where she works and he's like, hey, can I buy some of those dangly earrings with the moons on them? And she's like, oh, we don't sell those. He's like, well, I saw them sitting on your dresser the other night. And she's like, how did you know I had earrings on my dresser? And he says he spied on her with a telescope, and she's like, oh, you dirty dog. And then they go on a date, and she brings a chaperone, which I was like, good, because by all rights, this guy's a creep. But then the chaperone walks away to get her fortune told, and he's like, hey, why don't we go for a walk through the woods, huh, toots? And she's like, okay, this guy is gonna kill you. Why? Yeah. You went on he asked you for a walk through the dark woods after spying on you with a telescope, and you just go for it. And then they reveal she's married.
Oh my gosh.
And within the next 20 minutes of the movie, she introduces her husband to him, and he's like, hey, I just wanted to tell you, no hard feelings, mate. And he shakes the guy's hand, and he's like, I just want to let you know I'm not jealous. What is...
She's a catch.
Was this movie written by aliens? This is so fucking
I'd
weird.
do a doggy style.
Also, they completely...
Let me know if you want to visit the Eiffel Tower, huh?
Also, it's hilarious how much movies just didn't give a fuck. Because the opening credits, when they're showing all the actors' names, they just show... I forgot the guy's name. The guy who plays the main character, and they go, and what's his face as the Wolfman? I'm like, well, I guess we know who the fucking Wolfman is.
I would never know if not for that. That's another one that I don't think I've seen since childhood. We probably got that on VHS from the library ages ago. Oh man.
So anyway,
that's cool. Yeah, I like the variety. You got plenty of new, plenty of old. There's still plenty of stuff that hasn't been brought up. But yeah, a lot of these are, if not, a good chunk are this year. Most of them are within the 2000s, and then a couple predating it.
I love 80s horror movies, but I feel like the well's running dry because I went so hard on them in previous years that I'm like, I heard of a new one today called Night of the Comet. I might give that a watch in a couple days.
Check it out.
What was that one you were talking about? Demons.
Night of the Demons.
Everything's Night of.
Yep. That's from 1988. It is, yeah, I would highly recommend. And it's kind of weird. I feel like any cover they've made for it really just doesn't do it justice. But no, it's so goofy. The special effects are really well done in a way that's going to surprise you. But yeah, absolutely recommend it. And that should be on Shudder.
Anytime a movie starts with Night of, you know it's gonna fucking rock.
Fuck.
This movie is gonna fuck.
I might have to get, because Shudder's doing 31%.
I have it through Amazon. They were like, "Do you want to pay an extra $3 a month to get all these Shudder movies?" Like, sure, whatever. I don't know how finances work. I'll just keep offering me subscriptions, and I'll keep nodding my head because I'm a fucking idiot consumer.
That's you. Oh man. Yeah, I gotta see what Shudder. I want to do. I know I'm gonna find some stuff that I want to watch, because I think I'm gonna keep doing like new stuff to me through the end of the year, and then maybe rewatch some stuff. But I'm kind of with you. I try to use the month to watch things that I've never seen before, or at least haven't seen. Like today, I watched Jason X. I have not seen that since like teens, maybe early 20s. And then maybe tonight, probably tomorrow, I'm gonna watch the 12th movie, if you're counting Freddy vs. Jason as a Jason movie. But the last Jason movie I saw in theaters, and that was the last time I saw it when it released.
Wasn't the last Jason movie the reboot of Friday the
Yeah,
13th?
but
That movie's not bad.
I
I
can't
I
remember.
don't mind it.
Yeah, I can't
It
remember if it was like a full-on reboot or like a re-sequel.
Yeah, but also after watching In a Violent Manner, I feel like I'd go back and watch that and be like, this is not as good as I remember it being. Like, it is really tame and safe and generic in comparison.
Yeah.
Like I said, In a Violent Manner, just it kind of ruins slasher movies for you.
Well, I will say, like, for everything that I feel like I've ever heard, Nightmare on Elm Street is violent. They got away with a lot of stuff. Um, Jason and Michael, it's like varying degrees. There are some films that are really vanilla, where like Jason kills them. There are quite a few Friday the 13th movies where someone gets killed off screen, and then they show you what happened. Like they don't show penetration; they'll show, you know,
Yeah.
the harpoon is already in them, but they won't show it like going in, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's weird to think about, but the Friday the 13th movies were hit hard by censors. And you
Yeah,
think of it as like they're the punk rock horror movies, but they're really not. Like
they're
after
not.
the first few, they got censored to hell.
Yeah, so vanilla. But yeah, no, it's a good season to find something new. I think it's always fun when people do that because DT said the same thing. I might even have to bother him to, see, talk to him about stuff that he's watched, because I'm getting everything from everyone else right now. I've mostly been listening to books, so that's been like my horror of the month, is listening to books, because it's much less of a battery drain than
My
watching stuff when you're out of power for a week.
my problem is I really want to read classic horror like Dracula, but I feel like the vibes are never right. I'm like, I should be reading from a leather-bound tome in a room lit by candlelight. I can't just like turn on Audible and have someone be like, "He
So
approached Dracula's castle." I'm like,
there's
I'm eating a Dunkin' Donuts croissant and sipping on an iced coffee.
there are I was talking with a friend about the audiobooks, because she introduced me to a reading that I've never heard, and I introduced her one. I think Michael Fassbender does a reading, and then Tim Curry, that's the other one.
No
So
shit.
Tim Curry narrates Dracula, as well as Michael Fassbender. They are very separate readings.
Oh my god, I need that Tim Curry one.
Yeah.
Jonathan Harker, baby.
Jonathan,
Welcome to my castle. I know you're tingling with anticipation.
patient. So check it out. Dracula is one of my all-time favorites. I've read it 3 times now, like physically read it twice and audiobook once. Frankenstein is always great.
Sorry,
I wanted
I have to wipe spit from my screen because I said I put too much
the
emphasis on the patient.
um but yeah, Carmilla I started to read, but ended up switching over to another book. But yeah, so good season for stuff. Yeah, I think we've covered all that really needs to be covered. Mike, I know you're not used to answering this question, but if people want more of your content,
Hold
where
on,
can
let me
they
make
find
sure
it?
I have the fucking website right.
Now that there's only one thing to know, do you know it?
We'll see. Because I typed in what I think the URL is. And we'll say, yes, the Neatcast.com. Go to the Neatcast.com for everything Neatcast. That's my podcast. My podcast with my buddies, Jeremy and Zach. And we talk about pop culture news. We talk about weird news. We talk about cryptids, hauntings, demons. We play fun improv games. It's way too long every week. Go listen.
week.
Thank you for having me on, Mr.
Yeah,
Burrito.
it was good. Thanks for coming on, especially on short notice. I just saw that you'd kept up with the list, and I was like, I bet Mike wants to just get it out. Just
and if you don't if you don't watch all these movies, you will die in 7 days.
Yeah, so get Shudder or Amazon Prime.
Yeah, and you're gonna have to really marathon them. That's a lot of movies to fit in the 7 days.
It depends. If you've got multiple screens, maybe you can just watch all of them at once.
Yeah, and these grudge ghosts are not forgiving. They if you watch like 27 and a half, they won't care. They'll still crawl up your butt.
Well, thanks for listening. Yeah, I think I'll probably have hopefully maybe 2 episodes out before the end of the month. We'll see. I'm probably just gonna do like balancing on this and release it. So yeah, I'm not editing anything. I'm not gonna mic this up. Yeah, thanks for listening to this episode. The next one won't be too far behind. I'm still seriously finishing up Mars Madness. It's the last one. And then I should have a Christmas episode for you. So stay tuned.